Gideon Levy, an author and award-winning journalist who joins us now live from Tel Aviv. Gideon, good to see you. So the Saudis are denying a meeting took place at all. It's been sort of confirmed by Israeli officials, but what are your sources saying?
The sources say that if you don't deny, you confirm it. That's old technique in diplomacy. I believe it took place. I'm not sure it's the first meeting between Israeli high-level politicians and Saudis, but obviously this is the first one which is published.
So do you believe a normalization deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel is going to happen, that it's imminent? And what kind of reaction might you see in Israel to that?
It might very be so. For sure, after the king will not be around and the crown prince will become a king, I'm sure that this is more than a possibility. It might create a new reality in the Middle East. We can't ignore it, but we should remember that when we do go to this new Middle East, the Palestinians will be those who will be thrown along the road, bleeding and helpless, without any solution to their problem.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, Saudi Arabia is one of those countries that's been very, very critical of Israel in the past, particularly over its treatment of the Palestinians. So, you know, how do the Israeli public feel about Israel creating diplomatic relations with a country that's essentially been an enemy of Israel?
Yes, I mean, it's not the excitement of 1977 when the late Anwar Sadat arrived in Israel. This excitement, I'm afraid, will never be back. It's not like people feel that Israel is starting a new way and there is a new horizon over our lives. But on the other hand, it's another development, step by step, in the acceptance of some of the Middle Eastern countries, the acceptance of Israel without solving the Palestinian issue, with continuing the brutal occupation of Israel. This will obviously strengthen those who believe that the Israeli occupation should stay forever, and there is no reason for Israel to put an end to it.
You talked about a new Middle East. How much do you think is driven by the alliance against Iran, which for some Arab countries seems to be taking priority over the issue of the Palestinians?
That's the core issue. I mean, you can't exaggerate about this. Your enemy is your friend, and Saudi and Israel are sharing the same strategic enemy, namely Iran, and that's the core, that's the key to understand this whole development. Same for the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, same maybe for Sudan. By the end of the day, there is a very clear division in the Middle East. Iran on one hand, Israel and the others on the other hand. And until now, Israel is just gaining out of it.
Gideon, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Gideon Levy in Tel Aviv there.